just a slut.
Poor boys.
Did she expect
They're
him to
gonna
read
have
her
their
mind?
lives
See what she was
ruined with
wearing?
this accusation.
She did fight him
He
off.
was drunk.
She was
Didn't
drunk.
he mean it?
Such a nice guy, though.
She's just too embarrassed
She let
to
him
admit
in.
she
She
had a
left her
one-night
drinks
stand.
unattended.
to his
Get
apartment.
over it.
What did
She
she
didn't
say?
say
I walked home alone.
Did she
She
expect
couldn't
him to read
She
her
couldn't
mind?
have his money. She bought her dinner.
She owed him.
Hello, hello, all. Good evening and happy Tuesday. Welcome to our weekly edition of Love Shouldn't Hurt. Tonight's topic is a topic that not many people discuss. Not many people even know what victim blaming is. And sadly, it happens so often within our community that many victims are so shy and so intimidated and so afraid to speak out about their truths because of victim blaming, which is so sad for our community, especially all of those who have dealt with some form of trauma. We're not only talking about domestic violence, there's sexual assault, there's so many different things that people in our world today are dealing with, struggling with, and hurting from. And because of victim blaming, they do not speak up about their truth. So before we get into tonight's topic, I want to remind you, as I always do, why we are here. If you or anyone that you know is dealing with domestic violence, please have them reach out to the domestic violence hotline at 1-800-799-7233, or you can reach us at www.loveshouldnothurt.com or any of our social media platforms so that we can help you in any way possible. So tonight we are talking about victim blaming, folks. And originally I was going to be on this screen by myself because I thought, who but myself would know more about victim blaming because I've lived that. But tonight, we're going to bring on my executive producer, who is always in the background, always helping out with the comments and the different people. But he is a male who has a very, very strong passion for what it is that I do. Super huge supporter. And tonight he is joining me on the screen so that he can share with me his visions, his thoughts, his opinions on victim blaming. So Ray Velez, welcome to our show tonight.
What's up? How are you?
My victim in all things love shouldn't hurt. You're my partner in crime.
No, it's an honor. You know, it's always an honor. I
Thank
love
you
doing
so
this.
much. You guys are always so super supportive, and you're always in the background, and you deal with my attitude and my mouth and my complaints, but you do it so gracefully.
I'm like any text messages and
Yeah, messing with the
live.
comments when you're trying to. But tonight, listen, we're talking about victim blaming, and you being a part of Love Shouldn't Hurt and being a part of my team, a huge major part of my team. You know what this is about because there's so many people that even have come to you like, why she do what she do. You know, a lot of people wonder why we do what we do. And unfortunately, a lot of victims do not come out because of victim blaming. So tonight we're going to talk about that. Why victim blaming is something that's so major in our society. Why do we feel people do it? And why it's important that we make that change against victim blaming tonight.
And before we even continue, can you even say where? Because I know already, but where did this topic come from?
It came from my 13-year-old daughter. We were driving. And as always, we talk about my show and what are things that we can talk about. And, you know, she gives me feedback. She talks to me about everything all the time. She's a huge supporter of what I do. And I said, Alina, she thought I was joking. What do you think our next show should be about? And she said, victim blaming, Mom. People should talk about it. It's super important because people don't realize how important it is. And I said, oh my God, you're absolutely right. Let's do it. 2 minutes later, I text you and she was like, I was joking.
But that's so good because it's like I know that she's involved. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And she loves what you do, and that's the greatest part is having your daughter be there and say, "Hey, Mom, you know, I think this should be it." So it's it's really dear to our heart because
It is.
know that she's an amazing young lady, amazing.
And she is a great girl. Listen, if her hair was brushed right now, she would be on too.
Right?
Before the show started, she said, maybe I should just sit next to you. And I said, come on, it was your idea. And she said, no, I'll be on next week's show and we'll talk about feminism. So watch out for Alina. She'll be here next week.
Good.
So let's get into this. Victim blaming, victim blaming. When you think of victim blaming, what's the first thing you think of, Ray?
Pointing fingers, pointing fingers. It's always it's just either you did it, not me. You're the how can I even say this? You're the problem. You're just the sole problem of everything, anything, and it's a shame because it's the easy way out and not knowing your faults. You know, that's how I see it.
Absolutely. And I think that even even thinking about just relationships, and not just relationships of hetero or gay or anything like that in a relationship, but relationships with families, with friendships, with employers, with coworkers. Oftentimes I think it has a huge impact on how people are educated as well, on the fact of all types of abuse, whether it's domestic violence, sexual assault, any form of violence. I think it also comes from whether or not they're educated on that, whether or not they were raised in a family who either spoke up about it or kind of just thought, déjalo en la casa, no habla de eso. Because I think that as anything that we do in life, when we grow, when we're learning about how to become a parent, when we're learning about how to be a friend or a mother or a child, we get what other people around us are doing. We watch and we see what they're doing. So if you are in, a circle of friends or a society that's constantly saying that, oh no, like abuse doesn't happen unless you ask for it. Abuse doesn't happen unless she wore sexy clothes and she wanted it. What did you do? That's the biggest thing that people say. Well, if he hit you, but what did you do to make him mad? And what'd you say to him? And I think that's why it's super important to have this topic tonight, because there are plenty of naysayers out there still today who do not believe that domestic violence is real, who do not believe sexual assault is real, who do not believe that rape is real, because they feel like if those things happened to you, you wanted it or you liked it. And if it was so bad, you would have left. You wouldn't have stayed.
Well, that was actually my thing when I first saw you three ladies in the beginning of this project.
Right.
I didn't even know what was going on. It's like and then of course, and for somebody that doesn't know anything about it, it's just it automatically is like, well, why didn't you say something, or why didn't you get out of it quick?
Absolutely.
And it's like, and then it's being educated. It's definitely being educated in the fact that if you really want to know about it, obviously, I wanted to know more about it. So what did I do? I was just like, I want to be involved. I want to make sure that you have my support and educate me. And you did. And probably not even like one-on-one, like, like sitting down, but everything that you have done to bring Love Shouldn't Hurt educated me already. You might not even think that probably, and it's just like, going to watch the video from you starting the broadcast like this right now for from the oh my God, you brought it to Reading, you brought it to into Philly, you brought it into Lancaster, so it's like it's amazing, and it's just like, but every single time I've noticed, and then it makes you notice yourself, what is it that you're doing? You want to make sure that you're not doing what is being said, and it's like sometimes like, am I like, you question sometimes even yourself, because you want to make sure that even for friendships, even for relationships, you want to make sure that you're not doing what you think, what you're saying. And it's like, you look at it and you're like, I don't want to be called that, or I don't want to be looked at as that. And it's just like, you have to check yourself sometimes. But it's just questioning it, and it's really trying to get to know what is victim blaming, like what you don't even probably know that you're doing it.
Absolutely.
And people are okay about it, and it's like, oh no, it's he or she are joking. And
they know I love them. They know I love them.
Yeah, yep. And that's exactly how it starts. And it's like, you kind of question it after a while, like, is it actually a game? Is it something that is going to stop later on? Is it something that is not, I don't know what my future holds with that, or it won't happen to me.
Right.
And it's like, and I guess I might be using a lot of your words because of the fact that I've seen you, and when you've talked about your story, it's like, wow, they'll probably say whatever you want to hear in the beginning, or even for a friendship, hey, manipulating it. And that's just like, and then it turns into victim,
Oh, absolutely. I think I say it all the time. You have to walk a mile in my shoes before you can understand any of my past. And a lot of people tend to forget that unless you're walking in those shoes and you're experiencing what we experience, you could never fully understand why we stay, why we tolerate. And I say this all the time. So people who are watching, good evening, Carmen, I see you. People who are watching all the time sit and say, oh my goodness, she dealt with this, or he cheated on her, or he spoke badly about her, or he beat her. Oh my God, well, how could she run this podcast and how could she run this organization? I'm not perfect, but I do what I do on a daily basis so that even if one person watching feels as though they can get help from what we do, we can do it. Victim blaming is huge in our community. Unfortunately, it's huge amongst women and women. Women love to say, well, she stayed with him, so she deserved what she got. Another scary situation where oftentimes I've been told, and it's really sad, is law enforcement. Law enforcement, oftentimes have deterred women from telling their stories because of victim blaming. And I don't want to say and put any sort of negative stigma on law enforcement because I have a lot of people in my family and friends who are law enforcement. But there are plenty of individuals sometimes who say, I don't want to tell my story because when I tried to go to the police district or I tried to talk to a cop, he asked me what I did. Did the guy hit me? He asked me, am I sure I really was hit? And I don't think that it's something where they feel as though they're victim blaming. I think that because of the type of job they have, they're kind of just like I say about doctors. Their bedside manner is kind of bland because they deal with it so often. And sometimes people lie about the abuse that they go through or lie about certain situations. But I think, again, it's oftentimes about us learning what it really is, what type of abuse, what form of abuse it is, and educating ourselves because oftentimes those who victim blame just have no idea what type of abuse people have gone through. We have a comment from Jasenia Ortiz that says, you always think you did something because of the fact that these people, men and women, manipulate the fact that they're doing certain things because you did something to them when you really didn't. And that's a huge thing because narcissism is huge. A narcissist will make you believe that the reason why they hit you or the reason why they cheated on you or mistreated you is because something is wrong with you, because you're crazy, because you did this to push me there. You made me do this. And that's not the case. And being the person who's being abused, you start to take that in and believe that, like, did I do something? Am I the reason why he did this? Am I lacking in certain ways? Is why he's doing it? And it's just something we just need to continue to open our eyes about. So tonight, victim blaming. If you just logged in, we're talking about victim blaming. When we get on here, we talk about domestic violence. I think a lot of the questions that come up and a lot of the concerns surround victim blaming. So tonight, folks, if you're joining us, that is what we are talking about. So I have a couple questions, Ray, as per always. I do my research and then I think of questions. Ashley Marie Cariño says, gaslighting is real, which is a huge form of victim blaming. Gaslighting will make you believe that you are the problem and it is all about you and that is why you're being abused. So, Ray, my first question for you is, do you think that victim blaming is a major cause for why victims do not speak out?
I mean, I guess it's because you have to be in their shoes, in order to actually know. Unfortunately, I've never been in that situation. Would I even know? I won't know. In all honesty, I won't know because it's you literally have to be in their shoes in order to know and understand, to actually stay quiet. You don't know, it just really depends on how do you feel at that very moment, how what situation that you're going through, how long have you been in the relationship. To tell you the truth, it's not just one, two, or three questions. It's like everything is happening at the exact same time, and you're thinking about everything. Do you have a child involved? Do you have family that's been involved? How long has it's just, I guess it's so many things. And does it would be, I mean, it is definitely, I would feel that it's something that people don't like to talk about. It's just, and or basically even think that that's what they're going through.
I think
From,
Well, I think that you actually gave all the reasons why they wouldn't, because those are the things that play in our mind. When we're thinking of, okay, let me submit to this and finally open my mouth and say, okay, I'm being abused. All the reasons why you said are the reasons why most times people don't want to because they don't want to give those answers. So let's say I walk into a police station and I say, he beat me last night. I don't know what to do. I'm going to leave him. And the cop, and no disrespect to any law enforcement because they're a huge supporter of mine, but the cop says to them, well, why'd you stay? If he beat you last night, why'd you stay? All those reasons that you just gave are reasons why we stay, but we don't want to say that because we're embarrassed. Well, he's the one that has the money in the relationship, or I had this kid. I don't want to leave because what am I going to do without my kid's father? Or, those are all of the reasons why. And I think that when you perceive in your mind, okay, I'm going to go to this police station and this officer is going to ask me why I stayed, I'd rather just not go. I'm just not going to go. I don't even want to talk about it because he's going to ask me why. And then in our minds, we have to decide, are we the reason that this happened to us? Did we deserve what happened to us? Because we're so worried about victim blaming. And there's so many women out there that unfortunately I see myself who watch the show and will inbox me and say, thank you so much for doing this. You're shedding light. I can't talk about it yet because I know that my family's going to blame me. Why? Why do we live in that type of cultural?
But you know what? And I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it's just even in the Hispanic culture, la mujer, the wife stays at home with the kids, take care of the kids. You're the stay-at-home mom, okay? Now you're not working. You don't have your own income. You have to pay attention to the kids. He or she just stopped you from getting a job, and you kind of feel stuck right there. You're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel like I can't leave right now. It's unfortunate that I can't leave right now, or hope for the best that it would get better. Or if I try to intend to even try to get a job, he or she is going to be upset, and you're stuck. You're going to feel like you're stuck. Because sometimes when you're at stay at home, you don't have nobody to talk to either. So it even makes it even worse. You don't have nobody to actually socially have, like a one-on-one, like, hey, how are you? How you been feeling, or notice anything, because you're where? At home. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of things do happen, is it's always in the home, and it's always behind closed doors.
And people don't see those things. So to them, what I heard in my past were, ¿será que le gustaba? Ella se quedó con él.
Yep.
Ella no se fue de la situación. She never left. She never walked away. She must have liked it. And that's terrible because you're blaming the victim for her own abuse, not knowing that there are so many outside factors to why she stayed. No one enjoys being smacked. No one enjoys having their hair pulled. No one enjoys being in a relationship where you're constantly put down. But I don't have my own money. And he's paying all the bills. And if I leave, I have to live with my kid in a car. If I tell someone, he may kill them. These are all the factors why people stay. But everybody on the outside is like, ay, ella le gusta. She likes it. She stayed
for a reason. Yeah.
She stayed for a reason. And then the big thing, she loves his money. She's living off his money. That's why she won't leave. Not knowing that this woman fears for her life every day, but feels like there's no way out. And victim blaming is what's keeping her there. We have to do better as a society. And I hope that by the end of today's show, we're learning ways to help. Before I came onto the show, I was speaking with my daughter's godmother, who always is such a huge help. And I'm always like, I have my questions. I'm ready to go. What are things that you think that I should ask? Let's go, help me out. And something that she said to me was how different victim blaming is now than what it was back then, because of everything that you explained. Back then, culturally, we lived with older Latina women. Our grandmothers raised us. Older women that también, they went through it too. They were abused back then too. So it was like, ay, no le diga nada mal. Don't say anything bad to him, and then you guys won't fight and he won't do anything. You just have to learn how to talk to him the right way. Or if he doesn't like you going out,
Sweeping it under the rug.
sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want you to go out, pues no vaya para afuera. Don't do it. Not realizing that even if I go out, even if I wear something you don't like, it doesn't give you the nerve to put your hands on me. Ashley says abusers say things like no one cares about you, but me, they isolate you. That's another factor. Absolutely. I was told so many times, you're lucky I'm even with you. Nobody's going to be with you. So you stay because you have low self-esteem. In your mind, you have no worth. And if I leave him, I'm not going to have nobody. And then you go tell your sister, or you go tell your aunt, and they say to you, well, you stayed all this time. Why you stay? You know he's bad for you. Why'd you stay? Not realizing that all of that is hindering you as well. They think, oh, I love her. She knows I don't mean no harm by that. But they don't realize that every time you say things like that, you are blaming her for her abuse. You are saying that because she decided to stay in that relationship, it's her fault. She deserved what she got. But they don't see that because culturally,
They're not educated.
they're not educated on it and they have no idea. Hello, Marilyn. We see you. Good evening.
And unfortunately, it's also the what's passed down. It's like, you see, just like you said, you see what basically what's at home. Don't say nothing. What stays home, what happens at home stays at home. Then it's like, okay, then right from there, you learn it. When you have your family, what happens at home stays at home. So everybody's like this. Everybody's just quiet. And then there's no type of solution that's happening inside the home. Unless, of course, of organizations like Love Shouldn't Hurt. But unfortunately, sometimes they're not going to have the accessibility of having, you know what, watch this show, do this, do that. Hey, there's this, you know what, stay home. Stay home. Let me basically minimize or maximize your social media. Let's minimize your contact with your family. Let me, they do so many restrictions that what happens? It hurts you. It hurts your family, obviously, because not only for yourself, but you're also showing this to your kids. It's like, what's going to happen? Do they just brush it off? I doubt it. I'm sure that this is a learning process for them as well. But if you keep on showing, sweep it under the rug type of thing, and let's act like that hump is not there, what happens? So it's definitely something that needs to be out in the light. And I'm so happy that you and your daughter, actually brought this, because it is something that needs to be said.
It is. And I think that a part of the victim blaming learning process is exactly what we do every week. The fact that we get on here every week and we have different victims, we have survivors. Let's not call them victims. We are survivors. We have survivors that come on. We have people who educate, like Amanda, who give us a therapeutic view. I think that's part of the process of sweeping away victim blaming and trying to remove it. Society is never going to stop because there's always going to be someone who says she stayed, so she liked it. But I think a part of us being able to make that change and stop people from blaming the victim is exactly what we do. Because on a weekly basis, we educate folks often about not just domestic violence. If you watch us, we talk about everything. We talk about rape. We talk about sexual abuse. Continuing to educate and show people this is what domestic violence is. This is why people stay. This is why we didn't leave these situations, I think is a start. Hopefully, though, by the end of the show, we have other ways, because I think that social media plays a huge role in educating everyone. And I think that I'm going to challenge, that's what I'm going to do tonight, challenge everyone who is watching to use their social media for the next 2 days to empower one another. And I'll have that mission for you at the end of the show. I'm going to empower everyone watching, and I'll be watching your social media, to empower folks for the next 2 days to diminish victim blaming. We use social media to highlight sneakers, to highlight the Kardashians, or the new nails that we got, or how our eyebrows look when we're done with microblading. But we need to use social media in other forms, in other ways. And I'm going to empower all of you to do so before we get off tonight. Marilyn says they're also quick to judge without knowing what is going on. That's major. Because, like we stated, people are dealing with so many crazy situations. They might put a smile on their face when they leave the house, and you might see them dancing on the dance floor and they look like the happiest person in the world, but you have absolutely no idea what goes on in their homes when they get there. So, for people to pass the judgment of, well, she stayed with him, so she must like it, is so sad for our society. Because you have to think, behind closed doors, people can be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and you have no idea. Just because this person seems like an amazing man or woman does not mean that's who they are. So before we judge, we need to educate ourselves on what the situation is. Right? We have a second video for our folks tonight. Let's throw up that video that describes a little bit more about victim blaming.
And explore the societal issue of victim blaming, specifically how we blame victims of domestic violence. How many times have you read an online news story about domestic violence only to scroll down to read the following type of comments? We all know he has a temper. What did she do to set him off? He's probably just looking for attention. He didn't even report it to the police. If it was so bad, why didn't they just leave? This disturbing trend of blaming the victim is a serious widespread issue in today's society, and the truth is, no one deserves to be victim blamed for domestic violence. So what is victim blaming, and why do both men and women do it? Victim blaming refers to the tendency to blame the victim of the crime rather than the perpetrator. And yes, sexually assaulting your significant other, no matter the situation, is still considered a violent act. So the next question we have to ask ourselves is, why do we victim blame survivors of domestic violence? Social psychologists point to the just world phenomenon theory. In short, we all want to believe that the world is fair, even when it clearly isn't. By believing that the world is fair, by believing that people deserve what they get, and by blaming the victim, people are able to protect their illusion that such terrible things could never happen to them. So why should we care about domestic violence victims? Because more than 12 million women and men over the course of a year have been deeply affected by domestic violence. Statistically speaking, since this video started, 24 people have been the victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in just the US alone. If you're not being abused, there's a good chance that you know someone who is, which also means that you have the ability to break the cycle of domestic abuse by keeping your blame in check and supporting the victim. Change starts with you. We all have a role in ending victim blaming domestic violence victims, because one person suffering in silence is one too many. By removing the blame, you can remove the perpetrator's power and control. If your loved one is being abused, know that's never your fault, and there is support out there. To get help today, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or visit www.thehotline.
So, my challenge for you guys today is this. When we get off of our show tonight, I'll be watching. I want all of you to post on your social media and ask the question, why are we not asking the abusers why they do what they do? I think the most important question that we need to ask here is, why do you do what you do? Even if no one responds to your question, I want us to stand together asking the same question. Why do you do what you do? Because too many times what we do is say, why did you stay? Why did you live with him if you knew that he was going to beat you every day? Why did you wear that dress so tight? Why were you showing your boobs off? Why was your skirt so short? Instead of saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm so sorry that you stayed in this situation this long and it hurt you so badly. I have no idea why you stayed, and I'm sorry for you. I'm going to pray for you. Instead of being supportive, we've always looked to ask the person, why? So I challenge all of you to change the stigma of social media. Today, when you post, Find a cute quote. Find a picture of you looking beautiful, handsome. Find something positive to post. And underneath it, ask the question, why do you do what you do? I challenge you today. Ray, we're going to bring you back to the screen.
Like that.
So Nancy Lopez Santiago says, we have to learn not to judge, but to be there for our family and friends, no matter the circumstances or how long it took them to leave, breathe, and say something about their situation. I think what we also need to do is start to show a kinder heart. I think that we pass judgment way too quickly sometimes, and I think we're all guilty of it. I think I've been there. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been there. I know that in the past, before doing this, I would always say, oh, that'll never happen to me. I will not let that happen to me, until I was walking in those shoes. And then I said to myself, oh, let me swallow those words back in, because you can't know until you've dealt with it. Marilyn Del Valle says, no one deserves to be blamed for domestic violence. Absolutely. No one deserves to be blamed for sexual assault. Oftentimes I think to myself, right, and it's all the time, because I've heard so many people say over and over again, even in my instance, you stayed, you must have liked it. So I think to myself, if a 12-year-old girl was raped by a family member and grows up and she's bitter and she starts to act out and be a miserable person, are they going to ask her why she was raped? She was 12. She didn't ask to be raped. In that same instance, when I was almost killed, living in that relationship for 6 years, did I deserve to be treated that way because I stayed? I think not.
Always the question is, what did you do?
What did you do?
What did you do to escalate? Or what did you do to get him to feel that way?
Absolutely.
Of course, it's the easiest way.
That's the easiest way, because one of the questions that I had comes up at the perfect time. One of the questions that I had was, do you think that people do not want to believe that these bad things are really happening? Because if we believe that these bad things are happening, does it mean that any of us can be victims? I think that's a lot of the things that people need to realize, is that sometimes people don't want to accept that it can happen, because accepting that it can happen means it could happen to them. So we have a comment from Manuel Roman. Country, they should be supportive. They don't even realize you telling them your situation for help, for them to help you. And by victim blaming, you are empowering the abuser even more. Absolutely. That is an amazing word to use. Empowering. I was told, when I told someone that I was being abused, because not many people knew, I was told, but that's my boy. He would never do something like that. And I literally was coming to this person, out of all people, for help. And he told him that I told him.
Mhm.
And they literally had a conversation in my living room as I cried in the room, and laughed at me about how stupid I was, and how I wasn't strong, and I had no self-esteem. And she's with me. Dude, I could do whatever I want to that girl. She ain't going nowhere. His laughing at it and his asking me why I stayed empowered that man, empowered him to continue to do what he did, because after that day, he brought it up every time he smacked me. Every time.
He's empowering himself because of the fact that he's using what he feels is your weakness.
Exactly. And that's
Like,
what they
you know
do.
what?
They prey on your
I'm gonna
weakness.
just keep on, like, stabbing, so that she becomes weak. And it's a shame that it's I don't know. It's just I get when I automatically when I think, I'm like, that's one of our biggest, and I'm gonna say it's so noticeable now.
Mm.
It's so much noticeable now. It's relationships are on social media.
Yeah.
Relationships are like, what he did, what she did. It's the business is on social media.
Everything. Your
And
whole
I
life.
think that a lot of things that ended up happening is that you get these social media, you make everybody, like, everybody knows your business. Everybody knows your business. And you portray sometimes this the good. Of course, not everybody's gonna
Always the positive side.
exactly. I was just about to say that. So what do we see? We don't see the bad. So oh, they have an amazing relationship.
She must have
They're
been.
going through. Look at these pictures, beautiful pictures. Oh, look at the family, beautiful.
Mhm.
But where's the help? So what do you feel that? I know that you've gone through. Oh my God, everything. You've gone through and I'm sorry, I'm going to say a shitload. But it's just, did you ever try to use social media as a help without saying help? Did you ever try that? It's just a
No, well,
random
see, that's
question, but
actually
it's
one
just
of my questions was about social media, so this kind of fell into it. Um, the times are very different now than what they were then.
Mhm.
When I was dealing with my abuse was in 2002, 2003. So we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Instagram. We had MySpace. We had Mi Gente, right? And I think that you didn't portray things on social media the way that we do now. Social media is totally different, dramatically different than what it was back then. So, MySpace, you could put songs on your page. Remember that? You could put a different song in the background when somebody got there. I think the only way people would know is if they went to my page and they heard the song playing.
Gotcha.
Because I never posted anything that was sad, the way that we do now on Facebook. But what I would do is change my song every week. So if you went on my page, it would probably have like a cheater song or you made me cry type of song. So I think that that was pretty much the only way that you would know. But I think now, society wise, we use social media as a form of help and people don't realize it. People don't realize the signs. And like there's these new memes or these new videos that say, I don't know, like it could be anything. Tell me your dog isn't clingy without telling me. And then they show a picture of your dog in the shower while you're taking a shower. Or tell me your mom is crazy without telling me. And then it shows a video of a mom acting crazy and goofy. So that's kind of like what it is now. Like, tell me he's beating you without telling me he's beating you. And then show a woman just kind of looking sad type of thing. I think that's what we need to start opening our eyes to now. Because as you stated, we don't put what's happening to us negatively on social media. And even more so because of victim blaming, because people are worried if I put up something negative, what are people going to say? A few months ago, someone, actually two people at the exact same time, tagged me in a post on TikTok. And it was a woman who was live. She was in her home. Everything behind her was shattered. The TV, her clothes was ripped off. She was holding a baby. She was crying. She was beat up. And she said, I'm on here because I know people are watching and I'm looking for help. I wrote under that post immediately, I don't know where you're located. I'm in Philadelphia. Call this number. I can give you help. She said he had just broke the TV over her face. She needed help to get out of the home. She was scared he was in the area. 90% of the comments were bashing her. 90% of the comments were saying, you stupid, why are you on social media putting your business out there? If he did that to you, oh, you must have been a shitty mom. Like all of the comments that I was seeing were so negative, and I'm like, why are they blaming her? I don't care if I am PMSing and I have the worst attitude in the world when I wake up. That doesn't mean that because I gave you an attitude or I was snippy, that gives you the right to take a frying pan and slap it over my head. That doesn't mean that because you didn't like the way that I responded to you, you take the TV and bash it on my forehead. And I think that we don't realize in society what we do. Oftentimes we're quick to pass that judgment like, well, if he did it, she deserved it. I mean, I've heard people say, and it makes me sad sometimes, people who follow me and are friendly with me will say, I follow what you do. I love what you do. And then we'll be somewhere out and like a guy will smack a woman or something and they'll be like, I like what you do, but she deserved that. Like, you see what she's wearing? And I'm like, really? So because they went to a club and she left the house in a skirt that he didn't like, you agree with me in what I do on my platform. But damn, she deserved it because she should have left the house like that. He didn't like it. And to the people watching, it may seem small, simple, but it isn't. It is those things that have us where we are today. It is those things that make people not want to say, I'm being abused. What's happening at home to me is major because we're so scared of those individuals who victim blame. They'll turn around and say, but he told you not to wear it. Why'd you just wear something different?
But we also have those type of friends that would actually say, so, John, you're gonna let your wife go out like that when he probably wasn't even looking at her in that type of form. You know what I mean? Like, it's just my wife. She's dressing nice. That's it. Then we have those type of people that want the negativity. So here we go. We have friends that want to, because probably they're controlling their wife or their relationship or their girlfriend. Let me now bring what I'm in right now to somebody else. Now I'm going to put that inside your mind, and it's just like there we go, and it just keeps on going around and around. And what happens? We're in a circle. It's not going to stop until somebody actually says, "Stop! I need help." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Marilyn Del Valle, she says, I once was told stop provoking him. I cried so much because the person who told was also a woman, and I couldn't believe she took his side. Teresa Fetzer says abuse of any sort is not small or simple.
Amen.
Marilyn, I feel you because I think that oftentimes that's exactly the response that we get as women who are being abused. They hear that you're being abused and they say, well, stop making him mad. Like, when he drinks, he acts up. Just don't say nothing to him. We shouldn't have to live that way. You shouldn't have to walk on eggshells in the home that you're in or wherever you are because you're fearful that anything that you say might start someone. And I want to remind folks that it's not just women and men. It could be in the LGBTQ community, in the trans community. It could be anywhere. Abuse of any sort is not okay. And the fact that some individuals believe that because you stayed or because you dressed a certain way or because you did something, you deserve that. It's not okay. And I say this over and over again on my shows, and I'll continue to do it every time we talk about it. If you have ever asked yourself, why did she stay though? You are guilty of victim blaming. So I hope that when we walk away from this screen tonight, we start to think of what we say before we say them. Before it comes out of your mouth and you think about that thought, bring it right back. Because every time you ask someone who was abused, why did they stay? You stayed too long. You knew what he was doing, but you still were around. Your skirt was too short. You were just adding fuel to that fire. And you were continuing to blame the victim. And you were telling them what happened to you is your fault. Pretty much. I have another video that I want to show. It definitely impacted me. It is about sexual assault and why victims chose not to tell their stories. Listen up.
Me too, when I was raped.
I was 19.
I was 20.
I didn't report it for, 1,000 reasons, a million reasons.
It was somebody I was involved with.
It was a friend of a friend.
My drug dealer.
Met this photographer by myself. I got very drunk. I met some guy in this bar.
He started trying to kiss me and I said no.
He takes my left leg and raises it on his shoulder.
He went to put his hand in my panties and I tried to kind of deflect his hand, and that's when he slapped my hand away.
I blacked out.
I was fighting pretty hard at this point, just saying no, please don't, please don't.
I came to. Internally, I was shaking. I was really trying to look as calm as possible. I could tell that something that I hadn't wanted to happen happened.
He held me down and he forced himself inside me.
I was being pleasant and nice just so I could remain safe and get out of there. And I kind of just ran out into the street with like my pants on inside out and my shoes off.
And he sat up and he looked at me, and that was, I guess, the scariest moment for me, because I could tell he was deciding whether he was actually going to stop or not. And that was the moment that I realized that I had thought I was in control of a situation that I was not in control of at all.
And I blame myself for putting myself in that situation.
I knew that I had no proof.
I could hear people's judgment saying, well, why did you do that? It was your fault. I was still in like physical pain from this and sitting there going, oh, well, no one's gonna believe me.
It was my word against his.
Everyone was just gonna go, this girl just, you know, slept with this guy and changed her mind.
I wasn't the perfect victim.
I figured, who's gonna believe some cokehead college girl?
I didn't like try to fight him off, or I didn't slap him around, or, you know, I didn't pick up the phone and call 911.
I didn't know that I was important enough to draw boundaries around what people could and couldn't do with my body.
Who wants to come forward with the literal most violating thing that can happen to you, relive it, and then have people telling you that you're making it up?
And I thought I would just be better off trying to put this behind me.
I couldn't imagine pressing charges and then having to sit in a courtroom and look at his face over and over.
I thought, well, you know, that's like giving him what he wants. Like, I'm spending more time on him, or spending more energy on this.
I imagine, and I think rightfully so, that it would have been more traumatizing for me in many ways had I reported it.
It's up to a survivor to decide what they do with their story. It's up to them if they want to report it or not.
I don't want this to be a part of who I am.
I hated myself a lot at the time.
We are violated, we are harassed, we are touched, we're trapped, we're scared. And we just take a chip on the shoulder and we keep our lives going, and that's not fair to us.
And I think it would be wrong to tell them that they don't get to decide what happens next.
Absolutely. They don't get to decide what happens next. So many things in that video. She didn't want the judgment from folks. She didn't want people to think that she asked for it because she went out and she drank at the bar. It's mind-boggling to me that these are the thoughts that run through women's head. But why? Why do they run through our minds? Because of being blamed. Because too many times, even in the news, even in the media, when a newscaster is telling the story, people are thinking, you know, why did she stay? And why did she do this? And, you know, exactly that. Well, she was in the bar and maybe she shouldn't have drank so much, you know, as if because all of the things are a reason why she deserved for this to happen to her. During the film, a few comments came in. Teresa says, there is not always an answer to why. Why do folks eat cake if they know it makes them fat? Why do folks stay? Because we as a whole have been taught to look for the light. Absolutely. I think oftentimes we think that there's going to be a light at the end of that tunnel. If it ain't no one's business to ask why, ask what would you like to do? What can I do? Change is hard as shit. Absolutely. And I think that closing out the show tonight, that's something that we all need to do. We need to learn, how can we be better? What can we do as a whole to make this better? Remember, folks, while we're here tonight, we're here because we're always here to look out for those who are dealing with domestic violence or any sort of abuse. If you need help from the National Domestic Violence Hotline, remember to call 1-800-799-7233. You can reach us as well at loveshouldnothurt.com. So as we close out tonight, my thought and my mind and my mission continues to always be to shed light and educate folks on domestic violence. I have made it my calling and my job to educate folks on this topic because we all, as Teresa said, what can I do? What I'm doing, what my role is to stop victim blaming is to continue to educate folks why victims stay, why victims deal with it for so long. And maybe it'll help someone out there who decides that the victim is the problem. Maybe one time they watch our show, they'll think, oh, I said to my girlfriend, why did she stay? And I didn't think it was a big deal, but damn, I think I hurt her and I think I made her feel bad. Yeah, because you never, ever know why a victim stays. The biggest thing I want everybody to know and take away from tonight is don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a situation without knowing the full story, because just asking or joking with your friend and you think, I'm not offending her, she knows I love her, in just asking her why she stayed, you're now making her feel like it's her fault because she was abused. Carmen said it's so easy to look from the outside in and make commands not knowing the details. Absolutely. We all are victims of that. We all are guilty of doing that. We think because we know that person and they look like such a kind and gentle soul, that if she did something for him to hit her, it was her fault. Ray, what are you taking away from tonight?
It's just, I love this. I absolutely love this. I love being on here with you. I love working on this. It's just challenge, just like you said, challenge yourself to love yourself. Challenge yourself to educate yourself. Challenge yourself to think before speaking. Uh, it's just, there's so many things that we probably don't know, and sometimes we tend to put our foot in our mouth at times. But you have your cherished ones, you have your friends that you're really close to, if you have your kids, if you have anybody that your mom, your dad, anybody, make sure that you're constantly there for somebody. Make sure that you're actually listening or seeing these signals that sometimes just they're going like this and you're not even seeing nothing. Make sure that you're definitely educated in that. Love yourself. Love yourself enough to help out even somebody else. Empowerment. That's such a strong word. And I see it as we need to empower each other. We need to be there for each other. That's one of the, I just feel like that's one of the things that we're not there. And it's like if you feel that maybe somebody's doesn't know how to handle it, maybe just they don't know how to handle it. Be that support, be that leaning shoulder. And it's just you're gonna notice that even if it hit home or it hit one person, as in like you know what I mean, this message hit one person. You did your duty. You did your duty. And it's just Chrissy, what you're doing. It's just again, that's why like I'm behind the scenes and stuff like that, and I
With
I,
my mouth.
I believe in you. And that's one of the things is I really do believe in love shouldn't hurt, and that was one of the things that on why I said, Chrissy, well, no, CMV, if you need me, I'm here. Do you need a location? Do you need to anything, flyers, anything? I'm here 100% because of the fact that I believe in what you do, and knowing that there's people out there that are not educated in the things that you're educating people on. It's just spreading the word, making sure that people know this conversation right now, what just happened tonight. Have a conversation with your kids. Have a conversation with your cousins, your anybody. And it's just you're spreading out awareness. And that's what we need. This awareness can lead into support, and from support, they're gonna get that help. Thank you, Kristen.
Welcome, babe. I think that we continue to remind folks on a weekly basis what it is, that people are dealing with and tolerating. And I hope to God every time we do this that we're educating folks and we're teaching them absolutely what people are going through. And I'm hoping that it's teaching people to not jump the gun, to not make a decision based on what they are uneducated on. And I hope that it helps people. I hope that it enlightens folks. I hope that if there are people who don't believe that domestic violence is real, I hope that our shows show them that it is. It is something that affects someone. It affects families. It affects kids. It affects everyone. And before we jump the gun to shoot someone down and blame them for their abuse, that they realize that maybe you need to take a step back and reevaluate. Maybe you need to realize that just because I had an attitude doesn't mean that I deserve to get smacked. I don't think that we think about that too often. I think oftentimes because of what our culture has taught us, I think the age and how we grew up and what people believe, you know, from older people to younger people, I think all of that has changed. I think society back then was a lot more big on victim blaming. Absolutely, because we had Hispanic older women, like I stated earlier, who believed that if you stayed in that relationship, ella le gustaba. I think now, though, what I'm super proud to say is that I think now that from what we're doing and social media and our kids who are watching, we are becoming a stronger power, and we are being able to teach people. My daughter posts things every day on her social media, not just about herself, about LGBTQ, about feminism, about respect. She puts everything up, and I am not ashamed. I am so proud of that girl because she is being the change. Stop thinking of situations so negatively. Stop blaming victims for their abuse. Start being the change that you want to see. Isn't it Gandhi that said, be the change you want to see in others? We need to all do the same thing. So before you are quick to assume she must have liked it, that's why she stayed, think back if it was you in those shoes. What would you do? And maybe that'll change society. Folks, next week, if you didn't hear us at the beginning, I will have this beautiful young lady on the screen with me, my gorgeous 13-year-old daughter, who actually tonight was her topic. Talking about victim blaming came from my baby girl, Alina, who is super supportive of what her mother does. But next week, be on the screen because my baby girl and me will be here together discussing feminism, something she is super passionate about. It's going to be a show you're going to want to see. My girl's got a lot of input and a lot of thoughts on feminism, and it's going to be a great show. Ray, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for being my big support system, for being here, for always being supportive. If you guys didn't know, this is victim blaming. Victim blaming. Narcissists believe themselves to be above the rules and above the law. When called out on their unethical, or immoral, or even criminal behavior, they react by discrediting the victim to others, portraying them as unbalanced, unstable, or weak. Why does she stay? No. Why does he abuse? Stop the victim blaming, people. Start reminding yourselves that unless you are walking in that victim's shoes, you have absolutely no idea why that woman or man has stayed. I hope you learned something for tonight. And remember, everyone has homework. If you are watching us tonight, folks, I challenge you to go to your social media tonight and ask everyone out there, not why the person was abused or why she stayed, but why are you that negative? Why do you believe that negativity to be true? Challenge those people out there. If someone asks you why you stayed, ask them tonight. Put it on social media. Put up a picture, whatever you want, whatever form you want. Tag me. Love shouldn't hurt. So we can see when people respond. And even if people do not respond, put it out there so we can stand together in unity and say, stop victim blaming. It is not the victim's fault. Ray, Chrissy DeRigo says, this was a great topic to discuss. Thank you, Christina and Ray. You are welcome, Chrissy. Thank you for joining us. Jasenia, Felix, Esther, Carmen, everyone that is watching tonight. Thank you guys for always watching, being a part of our show. I hope that you guys are walking away today with just a better understanding of what victim blaming is. Even if you think you're joking, don't do it anymore. Don't ask her why she stayed. Don't ask her why she was there for so long. Don't tell her she should have wore that short skirt, maybe changed to a longer skirt. Know that no matter what she says, no matter what he does, no matter his attitude, no matter her facial expression, you do not have the right to put your hands on someone. And they did not deserve the abuse because of it. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week with my baby girl, Alina. See you all later, everyone.